It was Christmas Day, and Danny the car wiper hit the street junk sick and broke after 72 hours in a precinct cell. It was a clear, bright day, but there was no warmth in the sun. Danny shivered with an inner cold. He turned up the collar of his worn, greasy black overcoat. This beat Benny wouldn't pawn for a deuce, he thought. He was in the West 90s, a long block of brownstone rooming houses. Here and there a holly wreath and a clean black window. Danny's senses registered everything sharp and clear with the painful intensity of junk sickness. He walked 15 blocks, sweat running down his body, a raw ache in his lungs. His lips drew back off his yellow teeth in a snarl of desperation. I got to score somehow if I had some decent clothes. Now where can I score? George the Greek had lasted so long. Good H2 and no short counts. Danny went up to 103rd and Broadway. Nobody in Harold's, nobody in the Automat. All the pushers off on the nod someplace. What they care about anybody else? So long as they get in the vein, what they care about a sick junkie. He wiped his nose with one finger, looking around furtively. Jesus, he thought, where is everybody? He clutched his coat collar together with one hand, looking up and down the street. There's Joey from Brooklyn, I'd know that hat anywhere. Joey, hey Joey! Joey was walking away. He turned around, face sunken, skull-like. The grey eyes glittered under a greasy grey felt hat. Joey was sniffing at regular intervals, eyes watering. No use asking him, Danny thought. They looked at each other with the hatred of disappointment. Guess you heard about George the Greek, Danny said. Yeah, I heard. You been up to 103rd? Yeah, just came from there. Nobody around. Nobody around any place, Joey said. I can't even score for goofballs. Well, Merry Christmas, Joey. See ya. Yeah. See ya. Danny was walking fast. He remembered a croaker on 18th Street. Of course, the croaker told him not to come back. Still, it was worth a try. A brownstone house, card in the window. P.H. Zuniga, M.D. Danny rang the bell. He heard slow steps. The door opened and the doctor looked at Danny with bloodshot brown eyes. Goddamned alcoholic, Danny thought. He smiled. Merry Christmas, Doctor. You remember me, Doctor. He tried to edge past the doctor into the house. I'm sorry to trouble you on Christmas Day, but I've suffered another attack. Facial neuralgia. The doctor recoiled slightly. Danny pushed into the dark hallway. Better shut the door or you'll be catching cold, he said jovially, shoving the door shut. The doctor looked at him, his face focusing visibly. I can't give you a prescription. But doctor, this is a legitimate condition. An emergency, you understand. No prescription, impossible. You took an oath, doctor, I'm in agony. The doctor winced and passed a hand over Danny's forehead. Let me think. I can give you 1 quarter grain tablet. That's all I have in the house. But doctor, a quarter G? If your condition is legitimate, you will not need more. If it isn't, I don't want anything to do with you. Wait right here. The doctor weaved down the hall, leaving a wake of alcoholic breath. He came back and dropped a tablet into Danny's hand. But doctor, can't you inject the medication? No. You'll attain longer relief in using orally. Please not to return. Well, this'll take the edge off, Danny thought. and I still have enough money to put down on a room. Danny put down $2 on a $6 a week room in the West 90s, where he knew the landlord. He bolted the door and put his spoon, needle and dropper on a table by the bed. He wrapped a handkerchief round his right arm, holding the end in his teeth. He took the handkerchief in and began rubbing the arm to bring out a vein. Guess I can hit that one, he thought. Danny heard a groan from the next room. He frowned with annoyance. Another groan. He could not help listening. He walked across the room, dropper in hand, and inclined his ear to the wall. The groans were coming at regular intervals. A horrible, inhuman sound. Danny listened for a full minute. He returned to the bed and sat down. Why don't someone call a doctor? It's a bring down. He strained his arm, poised the needle. He tilted his head back, listened again. Oh, for Christ's sake! He tore off the handkerchief and placed the dropper in a water glass he hid behind the wastebasket. He stepped into the hall and knocked on the door of the next room. No answer. The groans continued. Danny tried the door. It was open. He had expected an old person somehow, but the man on the bed was very young, 18 or 20, fully clothed and doubled up, hands clasped across his stomach. What's wrong, kid? Danny asked. The boy looked at him, eyes blank with pain, finally got out one word. Kidneys. Kidney stones, Danny smiled. I don't mean it's funny, kid, it's just I faked it so many times, I never saw the real thing. I'll call an ambulance. The boy bit his lip. Won't come. Doctors won't come. The boy hid his face in the pillow. Danny nodded. They figure it's just another junkie throwing a wingding for a shot. But your case is legit. Maybe if I went to the hospital and explained things. Nah, I guess that wouldn't be so good. You wait, I'll fix you up. He went back to his room and got the dropper. Roll up your sleeve, kid. Boy fumbled his coat sleeve with a weak hand. That's okay, I'll get it. Danny undid the shirt button at the wrist and pushed the shirt and coat up, bearing a thin brown forearm. He hesitated, looking at the dropper. Sweat ran down his nose, the boy looking up at him. Danny shoved the needle in the boy's forearm and watched the liquid drain into the flesh. The boy's face began to relax. He sat up and smiled. Say, that stuff really works. You a doctor, mister? Okay. The boy lay down, stretching. I feel real sleepy. Didn't sleep all last night. His eyes were closing. Danny walked across the room and pulled his shade down. He went back to his room and closed the door without locking it. Sat on the bed looking at the empty dropper. Suddenly, a warm flood pulsed through his veins and broke in his head like 1,000 golden speedballs. For Christ's sake, Danny thought, I must have scored for the immaculate fix. The vegetable serenity of junk settled in his tissues. His face went slack and peaceful, and his head fell forward. Danny the car wiper was on a nod.